showed us picture before, right? Inside this museum, you can see that they call them African. Either they're talking about the far west Africa or they're being racist because they got just because he dark skinned, they gonna assume on the same page the summary show that they don't know the artist. I know an artist, but they can tell you that this African, right? So inside that museum, they got all these paintings. Looks to be from the same artist. This one right here get labeled African too. See, because he dark skinned now. But look at the little feather thing on his legs, right? Like he got the same thing, right? So he listed as African on that website with a museum created for itself. But watch this. See, now this America, right? See the same type of outfit. Look at the gold. So either we've been shopping at the same store with the Africans, or we talking about a mishap. This caption is the king of the Moors in the Orient. So he the king of the Moors in the Orient. But nobody paying attention to this picture. This is America now. Watch how he show or prove it. This is listed as the king of the Moor in the Orient. Well, we can always take captions with a grain of salt because people can come around later and caption things. But clues always are left where we can deduce. This is listed as a Native American. Pay attention. Same crown, same do-rag. Same thing, right? But this caption is King of the Moors in the Orient in the East, which I just believe they've been talking about the East of South America. Because the same artist got three other Americans listed on it. One known as a West Indian Queen, and the other known as the King of the Incas. But out of all his pictures, just the one that I don't see nobody saying, well, look, this America. This American is essentially Moorish American. If you want to go with the caption saying he the king of the Moors in the Orient. But don't let them fool you, try to take them off the land. And then you get another caption on this as a Native American. Same thing to me. The port of the mouth of the Mississippi, the Moor was chief. The gates, the Gulf of Mexico had plenty trade. Of course, we know the number of port cities down there. They had many malls set up in those areas. Basically, we still here today. We call it the South. But again, the port cities that the malls usually set up in. we call us the Carthaginians of the Indies. But pay attention to, you see the plume feathers. You see these on a lot of European crowns' heads at a time. So where they've been getting them from. Also pay attention to the outfit on this too, because they got her wearing it, and they say on this caption, Indian women. So you see, they skinny and that dark, so they don't get the African. So they give them, which this museum apparently come around later and caption everything. Don't know what they talking about. I was going to just show you the ridiculousness of how they act. Too dark, and they don't know how to place you. Another Indian American, Native American that they caption. Even though the other one, he got the same do-rag, same little augury bead. We're going to talk about that in probably another video. Show you how to see the augury beads of the Phoenicians. Follow that through history. They got the same thing as my man, who they with African. The exact same, he got the same gown. I think I showed that last video. Man with the, or I showed him on the video with the red cape gang. He got a cape on that, but he dark as hell, so they captioned that African. They captioned this American. Don't fall for it. As you can see, most on ships. As you can see, the background city's already built now. I'm telling y'all in more videos for a lot more, set up a lot of these ports around the world. They were the ones who could have sailed. And it's like a European king at that. See, like this. Since the time of the Phoenicians, Carthaginians. Just so old, you don't see pictures like these, or Moors actually on ships like this. You don't see fleets and stuff like that. Cause the long time ago, baby. Look, they got the captured heads of their enemies. Sea wars. And these are the stories we be talking about. We're going to read a little in a second. Come back. You see the Prince of Wales. These same things in his head. This Yamasee territory. Finding stuff like this in the with the nature damn near not take over. This Mauritania, ancient Mauritania, ancient Yamasee territory. You see, who teach them how to stabilize their building with these type of columns. The King of Judah in West Africa. You had Judah on one side, you had Tarshish on the other side. You see the imperial red band on his waist, just like we've been showing you of the Americans, Toussaint, they all had it. In the last video with the series we were talking about, I'm telling you about a bunch of these Moors who've been switched to being in the history books. We can find them under Spanish annals, Spanish history. Get changed to Spanish. Carlos decided to basically in all Spanish books in all his colonies, everything got to be in Spanish now. The languages, the books, and even the people. The Moors, Spanish, Black, uh, Ladino, uh, um, basically his reset, and that's one of them. That's one of the ones who been he get his history switched to a Spanish history, so he hard to find him. But he was a Moor. That's why they call him the infidel. He did a lot of management for Castile at the beginning of the conquest. And he been from here. These the ones I were telling you. He been from here. He been born and raised in Tenerife. But since Tenerife gets shifted to the Canary Islands, his history gets shifted with it. Not him, just him, but everybody else who been from Tenerife. Many of these places they get shipped to the east, the history gets shipped with it, and the people in the history books. And then people like them end up being labeled new Christians after they get baptized. And we see that in books. That's what they talk about more who they just baptized. Um, you see old Christians, that's a more that they baptized earlier, or a more that been Christian before they baptized in Moors. You had that too. You had ancient. Some books they even put when they talk about expelling the Moors. They even put the so-called ancient ones, put the so-called ancient ones on the paper. It's a kid because you had Moors calling themselves that, claiming to be the ancient ones. Just like that, the word ancient ones, like the emperors. And later Spain started to get rid of the old and new Christians too. They started to deal with the race thing. And intricacies of this. Definitely but I want to show you this. This is the wheel dealing with navigation. We're gonna see right here. And this the God of the Winds and other idolatry of the Virginians. And one of his idolatry dealing with the sea. You see, the Moor, which is the symbol of Sardinia, the flag. The god of the winds is also known in Egyptian history as Amun. Also in the Greek mythology, Iolus, 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 gods of the winds. And you see, he the same complexion as the Moor of the Sardinian flag, very dark skin in Virginia. And he got his wheel based off the seas, which the wind they talking about is a trade wind, not just the wind. He got off the trade winds because he understood how to sail the seas and get from where he going. So you got the Moors in the west. You know, that's from Sardinia. Now you go Sardinia, then the Rome of the Moors. That's what we use as a port. Like Rome used the port on the coastline. A couple ports. We've been using ports too in that area. And Sardinia was one of the many ports that the Phoenicians set up the Moors. Basically became a symbol of world trade. We see the obelisk at Rome, and we see it at Egypt, and we see it at Virginia. What is more? Yeah. and Iolus, the god of the winds. And you see, he been the master of the winds, but he been the son of the god of the sea. So the winds they talking about is trade winds. He lived on the island of Iola, but um, in this story, he talking about trade winds a lot. He talking about the fact that he could get from one place to the next, which Iola became known as a god because they could have sailed. Same story with Amun, which is basically the same characters. They just be remixing the old Egyptian stories. Right, he was the god of the wind, Amun. We talking about the ancient empire of Egypt, Virginia, Rome, and Egypt. Show obvious. They show that ancient connection. And they all about trade. You see the flag of Sardinia, the Phoenician, and shout out to Marcia Doran. That's where I get this from too. The Phoenician son of Anak, son of Arba, a race of strongman giants from the lineage of Ham. They were known to wear solar dust necklaces. So now you can find that everywhere on these necks of these Moors now. And they were seafaring pirates. They were seafaring. They became pirates over time after losing their estates. Started robbing the Spanish. Heroic hero warriors, the same family as the Punic Carthaginians, Sidonians, men of Tyre and Moors. They were called Canaanites and worshiped all the sun gods. So you see it right here. We see it right there. And we also see it, well, again, Italy. The Anak. So either they went to the same jeweler or we talking about an empire. People gonna lie to you. There's some more information on that. So let's read these texts and then we'll be done for this video. In the spring of 1613, the English settled in Virginia and Bermuda. Half of their too worried about the English to take care of the Moors. Remember I was telling you in the last video that they were considering themselves taking care of the Moors or treating the Moors to the gospel. But basically, Philip III, he already know Moors been hit because this is the land of Moors. So anybody who come to America, he'd be concerned that they would have set up kingdoms or whatever like he did try to do. Even though all he done steal Moorish kingdoms that already been built. He been a horrible motherfucker. He been depopulating places with the knife. The first concern was added the prevention of ships made by the Dutch bound for East India. Remember they used to hut in order to go to India from Europe most of the time off the left west coast of Europe. They coming through the straits off the coast down to Brazil and then hit around the Cape of Good Hope into India. That been the main road. They always stop at Brazil for rest before they hit around Africa. So that's what he want to prevent. The fortress that they built next to Lamina, as they said, Holland alliance with Malik Saddam. The fact that the king of Morocco gave him a European navy buying ships in the rebel provinces and the activity of the Turks. Don't forget now the Turks here too. And they in league with us, one group of Moors, and they at war with another group. But That's why we got Turk Islands still today. Left no time to entertain himself in artificial problems. Aware that the Dutch was using the port of both Moolies as if they were their own, it was upset to learn by the letter of Mayor Bodebira, a friend of Castillo, that the Christian market was flourishing in Tetuan, with so many Christians and Portuguese in Algiers that the Gender was depreciating, being a coincidence that the Castilians could have in hand Saleh's ship of those who left to the privateer. See, they end up being privateers. The routine crossing from Lisbon to Mazagan became problematic. The merchants not crossing to the Canary Islands in loose ships for fear 9 mercantile ships waiting for a good caller. So they waiting. That's how we know he's talking about America when they wait for stuff like that. In San Luca, the path to the Indies had to sail in fleet, the best armed caravel serving as captain. So they had to sail in groups because the Moors been wilding. And you see 1613, the 1619 project ain't happened yet. They already talk about Moors in Virginia. So that busts up this story. Also, um, 1600s, that's when we start to see the Dutch get in play. We start to see those Virginia tobacco thing when they got Indian Moraine and stuff like that. We start to see those advertisers come and play because they come over here and they have to deal with the Emperor of Morocco, Mouli Saddam, and get an alliance, and that's when we see Dutch come and play. The monarchs now want to confess that his rebels settled in the Indies, becoming regular of the Spice Islands. He applied the oil toponym. See, another reason why they move place names, placing the prelude to the Marinon Wars in Barbary. Go look that up. That's highly documented, even on Wikipedia. And a Levant, which would be the American Flanders of the Austria, urgently to regain control of Lamina, clearing the north coast of Brazil, where settlements of English and French proliferated. The aid destined for the Philippines did not follow the usual route. And we're talking about the Philippines. We're talking about the East Philippines. But they been another Philippines at one point in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, let me show you. Approximately right here in the Philippines at one point. Right there. I don't know if they still got it. Let's check. Philippines Community Church still there. Philippine Cemetery, Philippine. Yep. They still got the places there to show that, but it's no longer there today. That's a kingdom. But New Leon still there. The island of the Gritos, which is supposed to be in the Philippines, is sitting down here somewhere. One of these islands, known as the island of the Negritos. You see, you got Matamoros on the border where the Philippines was. Well, you can see the islands of Negritos over here, and then you can see in 1400s the Brotherhood and Savoy, the Brotherhood of the Negritos being set up in Spain. So I believe they come from one of those baptized islands. Instead of disembarking the New Spain, crossing the Viceroy to embark in Fort Navidad or Acapulco, he followed the road to the Cape of Good Hope, passing in front of La Marmora, a pirate shelter near Salé, a commercial port frequented by Dutch, English, and French, ignoring the monopoly that Spain sought on the whole continent. They loaded American gunners, making unpleasant competition to the downside to the offer of Seville and Lisbon. And we know that happened because we can still see it today. Suriname was a Dutch um, colony, French Guinea, that's the French, and we know Georgetown, that's definitely English. Belém, we talk about that in the next video. Then you got the French and the English Canaries, the British Virgin Islands. The Alarachi, acquired by Felipe III, is not the one we know, as evidenced by the distance in time that separated it from the peninsula, and that in Barbaria, where it was located, summer began in November. So basically, we ain't talking about modern day Alarach. Even though this is a Moorish port. And most likely connected to the Larachis on the other side. Well, it used to be on the other side, but check it out. Same architecture, you will be lost. Or we can look at the architecture and see where the Moors been. Probably on the peninsula, since the defense on the land side was supported by a trench from sea to sea. It had a hamlet. There was a mosque, two forts, a wall, and a river port. The bottom of the bar, with a draft of 5 to 7 cubits made of sand, allowed ships of up to 100 tons to enter without difficulty. La Marmora was around the southeast, 20 leagues by sea and 15 by land. See, all those important to the researchers who try to see which Larachi being mentioned, acquired by Philip III. Um, the river is plentiful, so we know we're talking about a different one. Since the largest in the Kingdom of Fez, which runs all year round, end up at La Marmora. It was the most mountable, housing a port with a capacity to hold 1,000 ships, entering comfortably ships with more than 100 tons, since the draft of the bar was 18 cubits in dead water, 24 in live waters. Road of 5 leagues by land linked the roadstead to the Alcazaba de Sale. This proximity and the city of Salé on the other side of the river is the probable cause that the Marmora was depopulated. The Castilians built the essential facilities by making them flimsy and in adobe. The winter rains periodically ruined them. So that's another clue. These rains that we barely get in the North Africa area. The Plaza de Mazagon was 30 leagues away, the southeast turn. It is not possible to identify La Marmora with the place name, which is preserved in Morocco, as there is no river ports, no torrential rains. It seems to have been at the bottom of the Bay of Oyapock, on the coast that was of Africa for the Europeans and of Barbary for the Spanish. So the Europeans were calling it Africa, and the Spanish were calling it Barbary. Returning from the Memorial with two ships from Suterke Squadron, Captain Viscano found 7 ships with seen to him merchants inside the capes. He got in through them without lowering the royal standard, braved many people from different nations. He approached the ship, intending to board it, being greeted by a spray of musketry and artillery balls. So that's what we trying to tell people. I know about the rest here, about the Moors been fighting. Lost in the 6th year, the fleet of the New Spain and the galleon San Lorenzo, choose to turn to Poniente, considering it inappropriate to swell to this. As the settlement prospered, the Hispanic place names were lost, being replaced by Flamingos or Flemish, and Anglo Saxons changed Guinea to Guyana. The English occupied the enclave of Belize and some islands, expanding the exploitation of American fisheries and huts, half with pirates and buccaneers, installed in the Antilles with their own rescues. So they doing the same thing Spain and them did. And roadsides uncontrolled. They traded with natives, Creoles, and Spaniards on the coast of Caracas with the same freedom as the owner of the property. Residents in Brazil, habitual of the port of Alguer, Flemish and English, extended to East India and the Moluccas, competing with the Castilians in the European market. Impossible to obstruct the traffic without placing a permanent squadron in the Straits of Malacca, an unattainable feat. Given the economic situation, Felipe III has resigned himself to a decline which did not prevent Felipe IV from calling himself El Grande. He called himself that based off the Grande River. We see that river show up in the 1600s. Also in the 1600s, we see the Dutch, right? I remember that book, um, America, being the most accurate in description, and show you all the Moors on all the different places all over the place, in ports and around the rivers, and a lot of Afrocentrics and a lot of everybody always take that book and want to say that the author wasn't in Europe, wasn't in America at that time. They lying to you. That's late 1600s. We got the Dutch in the early 1600s already here. The artist and the author of that book is Dutch, so they've been here, recording what they see, and they've been seeing the leftovers of what been going on between the Moors, Spain, and Portugal. They've been seeing stow at this time when they came, more stow everywhere. And we already see a lot of those pictures. And they start at Florida and they come down recording everything. So I don't know where they get that from, that the person been guessing, been in the Netherlands guessing about everything he see, even though he get all the buildings accurately right on all the forts, all that accurate. So I don't see why people, they just hate more so much that they could say anything. You gotta be able to say. The man got like 100 drawings in that book, and they want us to believe that he ain't never touched America. He just been guessing, and he been wrong, making all them dark skinned people everywhere. That's what they want you to believe. But this coincide with the history that Dutch was there, and we also know that from the place names. So anyway, returning from La Marmora with two ships from Santori Squadron, Captain Viscano found, we already read that, the title of the Marquis de los Velez was granted to a Pedro Fajardo in 1507. That's another one that I believe from here who got caught up in the story and ended up getting put in Spanish history as a Spaniard. Pedro Fajardo, he definitely on Wikipedia. He's a very important character. Always look for the Pedros. I think all the Pedros been Moors who got converted. The two towns compensated for the loss of Cartagena, with incorporated the crown as it was a port. Supposed counts of Cartagena in the documents of internal circulation. The Fajardos are no more than laws that it should be noted, imitating the Guzmans. So even as powerful as them dealing with the story, Moorish Americans, they had no asset in Castile. It emerged in history as an influential family based in Murcia, and that's what a lot of the Moors end up being at the end of the day. After the conquest, a circumstance that points to Muslim origins, straightening the past with the help of the genealogists. So you see, they go on in history and reconstruct the history. The needles of the shield provided them with a cleansing of blood. See, by rooting them with Villanueva de Ortiguera, a Galician place of mass and altar, paid generously, Pfeiffer gave Pelayo and the Dukes of Cantabria as ancestors, passing through Ferreira the First, dedicated the first pages of the Moorish pages of the calf to a brief review of the lineage he presented as a Scrooge of the Moorish, documented it from the 14th century. So he tried to clean up his past. And those pages that we be seeing, those pictures, they've been doing the accounting. They've been doing a lot of the stuff in the house that I guess the nobles who took the house couldn't do. But we can see where these pages come from in the next videos. Some real sad shit going on. Fernando Joaquin Fajardo in 1657 was residing at Cartagena. He took over his mother, Maria Garcia, to administer the assets of Catalonia, licensed to cut pines in the Dehesa de la Alfaguara, signed by her hand, indicates interest in her condition. Governor of Oran, in 1673, he appointed administrator for his estate, being in Cartagena, about to embark for Sardinia, where he was going as viceroy. That's why he's saying this shit is heavy. He was from Naples, ending his career at court from the councils of state and war. In 1688, he held the presidency of the Council of the Indies. You see, these Moors who've been running these ports, also, a lot of them been from here because they been the only ones who know how to sail back and forth. So they have to, you can see Murcia right there and Cartagena right there, and Valencia. And Naples should be a port somewhere. Right there. So the Mediterranean world still being run. But they're getting their names switched out. They're getting the history books as Spaniards. Fernando married twice with Maria de Aragon, daughter of the Duke of Cardona, and with Isabel Rizalande, who was the Count of Ayala. He died without children in 1693, the house being inherited by his sister Maria Teresa Fajardo, married to Ferdinand de Aragon, Duke of Montalto, Bivona. Sick, Fernando Joaquin, the brother-in-law, ensured the succession in office of the office Indias, so the house of contract, without waiting for the death of the owner. You can go look up the history of the house of the contract of the Indies, and all the governors of those houses been literally from the Indies. And you can see the same things in the Moluccas, the Philippines and stuff. After the Spanish and the Portuguese, they just used the native lords. All they wanted to do was collect the fluff. And basically, we ain't been paying them the fluff for nothing. These same native lords just started taking over those kingdoms. When the project of making brigs to bring the gold from America was ruined, it was essential to stock up. Since there was a lack of money to finish off the navy, Felipe II ordered that of the best ships that were prepared for the fleets be thinned out and made an armada very quickly. Planning the merchandise of individuals would go. The return of the Indies being so urgent, the replenishment of funds, that he proceeded to sending out people to Lisbon, warning Idiaquez to sail without touching the galleons destined for the Indies. Another Idiaquez, another Moorish American, with his people of sea and water and war, and everything else that is prepared for it. Gaining time, the squad would follow the route of the Azores, Drake's usual route, and go to the Bahamas, where six galleys would await with the goal of Peru. So they showing you they stealing, they show you where they're stealing from, which would be transshipped at sea. Forced to keep the operation secret, Idiaquez recommended urgency. As far as you know, El Guzman requested a license to reserve people and supplies to keep Cadiz, which was left defenseless, being authorized on the condition that it did not diminish one iota, which was destined for the galleons and Santa Cruz. In charge of bringing the gold to the Andalusian squadron, under the command of Antonio de Guevara, we know that while on the Guadalquivir on February 8, 1588, it returned on March 11th without having entered the Caribbean. So they had to find new routes. Ignoring the order to continue to Lisbon, Guevara allowed the crew to spend Easter at home. But basically, I just wanted to show you how this operation running. Even Felipe II, we see him on the Inca Kings portrait. We see him. We see Felipe III, the fourth. See Carlos V on that. They show you that the blood ties is deep. We also see plenty stories of the Native Americans with the French fighting against the Native Americans with the British, and we got this group. They always seem to be connected with Europe. But why I'm trying to tell everybody, show it, buddy. You got them, these Americans, these Indians, what we want to call them, which is hard to fathom because they ain't got no stories of sea travel. Been setting up stuff in Europe, these ports, and basically settlements, and basically their family still been there. The trade in the world been run by them. You on both sides, even in Africa. And you can see a lot of this stuff still going on. What Spain did is later rewrite a lot of history, but this the really been going on. Trade and commerce. So we can start right there and see you in the next one.